One-foot-flipper.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Paige here, the one-foot flipper. It is Thursday, the 31st of October, Halloween. Now, I've already packed all my orders for the day because I think I have to take my daughter and a few of her friends trick-or-treating tonight. I think the parents can't all get it together between themselves, so it might be me. Now, by the time I was 12 years old, like my daughter is now, I'd been going without any adults for several years. In fact, I think 13 was the last year I even went. But my wife, she's got a helicopter that doesn't fly very high, and there's just some disagreements on things like that that I won't win. You know, when I was a kid, I went by myself. Sometime, I think, at least one year I went completely by myself. But apparently that was okay back then, but three 13-year-old girls who each have cell phones couldn't possibly walk around the neighborhood on their own, could they? Anyway, I'm not going to win that fight, so. This reminds me, though, December is tomorrow. December. Do you know December is not tomorrow? You know what it is tomorrow? November 1st. Or if you're watching this tomorrow, it's already today. I should check my shipping supplies, and so should all of you, because fourth quarter, you know. If you're short anything, you could check out my link to Gyro Pack below and use code onefootflipper for 10% off your order. And I'll get a tiny cut of that. Last month it was $2 and something. Alright, look at some sales here. I sold a red leather Bible cover, $18. Got this at the Goodwill bins. It weighs almost nothing, so I had about 30 cents into it. Sold in a week and a half. Sold 2 bags of Warhammer Guys. The first bag sold for $16.16. And the second bag sold for $18.19. Weird prices are from my regular markdown schedule. Sold this Traveler RPG book, $15.94. Untested, may not work old gen iPod, $6. Found that at the bins, couldn't help but pick it up. Sold super fast too. I sold 2 lots of 2, so 4 total deck boxes with artwork for the Force of Will game, $11.62 plus shipping. I sold a JCPenney branded camera lens with a Minolta something zoom or something on it, $9.17. That had been in my store a very long time. Hallmark keepsake plushie Christmas tree thing, $8.86. I think Julie found this at the bins. I think. Because I remember my wife saying it would never sell. Cassette organizer, $8.17. Alright, that's all the sales for today because it has been a slow day. Let's hope tomorrow will be better. So, I, after years of having put it off, finally managed to get one of my eBay accounts registered as a tax-exempt buyer. This is something you're going to have to look up on Google because what you have to do differs by state, and I'm not doing a tutorial to it. But what it does mean is that I'm not going to be lighting 10% extra on fire whenever I do eBay to eBay sourcing. You know, like I buy a lot of items to break up and resell, or somebody spells something wrong, or magically underprices something. Now I don't have to lose 10% to taxes that I wasn't required to pay. I put in the paperwork for district as well, so I can buy things like that on District Commons, but it's been weeks later and it still hasn't processed, so hey, Ivan, can we get that to go through, please? Thanks. Not that I really have anything that I need to source at the moment, because I have accidentally achieved Reseller Nirvana. Now, if you're not familiar, Reseller Nirvana was a term used by Chris. Chris was the daily Refinement channel on YouTube. Now, Chris was a really big deal about 3 years ago. But since then, he's had a permanent eBay ban, followed by some sort of really weird drama where Rockstar Flipper said he was going to get him arrested and go to court, and that he had proof of everything. Nothing ever came of that as far as I know. But right after those accusations, his podcast and mentoring buddy Tech and Sports went out separate from him and did his own channel, which is doing great. Shout out Tech, love ya. And that sort of led to a long, slow slide in Chris's views. And he seemed to have just up and stopped posting on YouTube about 3 weeks ago. Now, I wasn't really meaning any of that to come off in a negative way. That is just a kind of neutral output as to what has happened. I don't know if Chris ever did anything wrong whatsoever. I have no idea. I wasn't there. And in fact, I learned a lot from Chris in my earliest days of full-time selling, even though he was hyper-focused towards picking high-end brands of clothing at the bins and at swap meets. And then later on, when he got bigger, paying other people to pick those items for him. Now you might ask yourself, why would people willing to do that? Why would they go pick the best items at the bins and then sell them to somebody else for much lower than eBay price? And the simple truth behind that is that a large portion of the reseller economy is an underground economy, consisting of people who either refuse to pay taxes, people who would have their government benefits cut if their reselling income was counted, people who aren't in the country legally in the first place, or for whatever reason are unable to handle real employment or even selling on eBay. That is why when you find people who have ramped up in clothes, they can find people to sell them items that meet their requirements at such low prices. And if you don't believe me, the underground economy and the paying taxes things, go to the flea market or the swap meet and see how many of the vendors there charge you sales tax. Not many, is it? Okay, that was a tangent. One thing Chris talked about all the time was the idea of reseller Nirvana, which was getting to the point where you were selling one item for each item you list. And that getting there was mostly a matter of selecting quality items at good prices and having enough of them in your store where the daily sales were equal to the number of items you were putting in. Thus, every day you could expect to list 20 items and sell 20 items, or 30 items and sell 30 items. Chris's goals for these things changed constantly, but one he said a lot was 20 items at a $20 profit per day. Another important part of getting to that step, though, is having a regular markdown schedule. Otherwise, your store ends up filled with all your mistakes eventually. Regular markdown schedule will pave over a lot of your mistakes, such as listing too high. Almost everyone wants to list too high. Listing low demand items and so on, but it's not going to fix everything. In fact, actually getting 100% to reseller Nirvana is essentially as impossible because it would require you to never, ever list an item that doesn't sell. And that's not realistic, as everyone is going to make mistakes. No markdown schedule in the world is going to make an item sell if the demand for that item is zero. In fact, I encourage you to eventually just take items out of your store that sit at your minimum price point for months on end. You do have a minimum price point, right? You should. You should have a minimum price in which you were willing to pull the item off the shelf, put it into the box, and send it out. Now, I personally mark my entire store down 3% per month with a minimum price point of $2.99. And the physically larger that $2.99 item is, the less time I'm going to let it stay around before I get rid of it. Now, I know that most of you, you're like Chris. You're younger, smarter, way more attractive, more mobile, and have twice as many legs as I do, so you don't have to sell items for $3 to make a living. Well, I do. So bless him, and bless you too. All right, let's do some sales here. What you can't see on my counter here is there's actually Dungeons & Dragons miniatures and terrain everywhere here, but you can't see it because the camera's only catching the area that doesn't have them, so I'm going to have to dodge this stuff as I move the items around. I sold a 6.5 pound lot of wooden stamps for $10.80. There's nothing to look at there, so I didn't bother to bring the box over. I keep thinking I'm out of wooden stamps, but I keep just not being out of them. Sold a old sealed box of Pokemon cards. Vivid Voltage sold for $113.49. Not bad. That was a gift from a friend. I sold this for $20, a talking Donald Trump toilet paper dispenser. I'm very happy that this got out because I have a feeling that this will be worth significantly less money after the election, regardless of who wins. It's just a feeling that I've got. But now I won't have to check on that feeling because it's gone. I consider any political merchandise that's related to somebody who's currently running to have an extremely short shelf life. You want that stuff gone as soon as possible. You don't want to hang on to it. My daughter Julie found this Nintendo DS in the bins. It's 3DS actually. I didn't have everything I didn't have the stuff to test it. I didn't have a charger, but my buddy John Ceramic did. He tested out fine. Sold for $70 plus shipping to a zero feedback buyer. I love that. I don't think I've actually ever been scammed by a zero feedback buyer, but boy, do they seem to come out of the woodwork for the high scam type of items. This is a poster of Truman the Tiger, the University of Missouri mascot. Sold for $13.69. Got that at the Goodwill bins. Probably cost me 10 cents. That's why I buy every poster at the Goodwill bins. This one I almost misshipped. This is a Grandeur Noel Santa 10 Christmas decoration in the box. The reason I almost shipped the wrong thing is because apparently there's a snowman version of this too. I had both this and the snowman version sourced completely separately. Didn't even realize I had them both. They were listed many months apart from each other. And I saw this come up and I recognized the box. I'm like, yep, I know where that is. And I went and I got the snowman one, not even looking at the custom SKU for the location. I just was smarter and knew where it was, and I only happened to notice that it had a different picture on the box than what I was selling. This is a collar and charger to a pet-safe portable wireless fence, sold for $55. I got what I thought was a complete pet-safe wireless fence setup at the Goodwill bins, but I should have realized that the box was too big compared to what was in it because the large transmitter unit itself was missing. But this looked brand new. It's completely unused and sold in a couple of days. So no problems there. Sold a single miniature going to Europe. A very old Chaos Sorcerer on Disc Champion of Tzeentch for the Warhammer role-playing game. I'm sorry, Warhammer game. Alright, that's all I got for today. Let's move on to whatever that topic was. I heard it was a pretty juicy one. Hey, if you made it this far, could you hit that subscribe button? Half the people who watch my channel aren't subscribed. And that sub number is the main reason I'm in this. Helps make up for the fact that I can't drive a stick shift anymore. About a week ago, I was looking over my own personal numbers, and I realized that I had accidentally achieved Reseller Nirvana. However, I came at it from the wrong direction. I had achieved it because my stores were full. One was full of the normal 1,000 items and the 10,000 items in select categories, while the other was full in the 1,000 items but not full in the select categories. But I'm not exactly sourcing huge numbers of select category items anymore. Select categories include books, media, video games, crafts, trading cards, and stamps. You know, a lot of those categories that I think are some of the worst categories on eBay, despite the fact that I have an 11,000 item card store. Now, your select categories does include collectibles, but I can only get maybe one item in 10 that I sell into the collectibles category, as in it really belongs there, or I can maybe slip one item in 7 or 8 in there. So I'm not going to be filling that collectibles category up anytime soon. So I found myself at this backwards Reseller Nirvana, in which I am indeed getting one sale for each item I list, but it's only because I'm using 100% of my free listings. Meanwhile, my draft bank is building up like crazy. But I no longer have any old death pile left, just recent things from the Goodwill bins. They're all nicely in tubs in my listing area and not magically mixed in with already listed items in my basement, like I was dealing with for a year and a half. Now, the one great thing about this is that honestly, at this point, I could cut my entire reselling operation down to 10 to 12 hours a week now at the rate it would take me to maintain this. However, I hit that Nirvana level at only about 60% of the sales goal I was looking for. I'm going to want some more money than this. After all, my wife's car has almost 300,000 miles on it now. She's going to need another one soon. Now, we're not going to be getting any one of those fancy $12,000 Philly Flipper level cars and have 37 videos about it. Sorry, Paul. We're just plain folks here. We don't need that sort of fancy thing, and I don't need my viewers to pay for it. But she's going to need something in the next year, so I'm going to have to make some more money. So I guess the next step for me is to start tuning that store, getting the low dollar items out, particularly the ones that are using that critical 1,000 main listings, and increasing my minimum purchase quality. Some of you are going to tell me to upgrade my store to Crosslist, but I'm already paying for 2 eBay stores right now. And you know what a Vindu account costs at the level I need? It'd be $100 a month. And if I wanted to include both stores, it might be $100 a month twice. I'm not sure if it allows me to access multiple accounts or not. So I'm not exactly rushing out to do that either. So, those of you who follow Chris, Daily Refinement, is he still around on social media? I mean, I see he has whatnots going, other people running it for him, seemingly 3 people at a time. I'm not sure how that math works out, but it must work out for him because he's doing it. But he hasn't had a YouTube video in nearly a month when he'd been doing 3 to 5, sometimes more videos a week for years. And it just up and stopped. So post in the comments if you know what's going on in that area. Or don't. I don't care. I stopped watching him years ago because he drifted into specializing in areas of reselling that I had no interest in. I just have zero interest in having other people run whatnot shows for me. Not the sort of business I want to run. But hey, it works for him, so God bless him. I think that's all I got for today. Thanks, and I hope to see you again soon.